Welcome back to another peaceful evening. Tonight, as you rest your head and let the day slip away, we're going to drift gently through time, into the distant, mud-caked past. You've probably seen romanticized images of the medieval world, castles glowing in the sun, knights in shining armor, mead flowing freely at candlelit banquets. But the truth? The truth was much colder, wetter, smellier. In this slow, sleepy journey, we'll take a quiet walk through the real rhythm of one medieval day. From the moment you wake up to the moment you finally collapse again onto a scratchy bed of straw. You'll see, very gently, why you probably wouldn't last 24 hours in the Middle Ages. But don't worry. There's no danger here, just slow stories, soft sounds, and a quiet unraveling of history. Now, take a deep breath, let your eyes grow heavy, and let's begin. Part 1. The morning begins at 4 a.m. It's still dark, the kind of deep, velvety darkness that makes it hard to tell if your eyes are open or closed. But you're awake. Not because you've had enough sleep, but because the rooster has decided it's time. He doesn't care what time it is. He never does. He just crows, loudly. Right outside your wooden shutters. Which don't actually shut. They're more like wooden flaps that hang there. Slightly warped from the rain. The sound rolls through the chilly air like a trumpet you didn't ask for. You blink. There's a draft sliding through the gaps in the wall. Your nose is cold, so are your toes. You curl them tighter beneath the wool blanket that smells faintly of smoke, old straw, and something else you'd rather not identify. Someone in the room shifts. Your little brother? Or maybe the pig? It's hard to tell in the dark. Your whole family sleeps in the same room, parents, siblings, sometimes even animals when the nights are cold enough. There's no privacy here, just breathing, snoring, and the occasional grunt from a goat. The floor creaks as someone gets up. Probably your father. He always rises first, clumsy in the dark, muttering under his breath about the fire needing rekindling. You hear him fumbling with flint and steel, trying to coax a spark into the cold hearth. It takes time. It always does. There's no switch to flip. No warmth on demand. Your straw mattress is lumpy and damp on one side. You shift, trying to find a spot that isn't poking you in the ribs. It's no use. The straw has flattened unevenly, and the cloth sack holding it together has torn again. Outside, you hear the early stirring of the village, a dog barking far off, the creak of a cart wheel, and a faint bell ringing from the chapel tower in the distance. It's morning, sort of, and you've only just begun. Part 2. No mattress, just straw. You'd think, maybe, after a long day in the fields or by the fire, you'd come home to something soft, something comfortable. But this is the 1300s. Comfort hasn't been invented yet. Your bed, if you can call it that, is a cloth sack filled loosely with straw. Not the golden, fresh kind from children's books, but the sort of flattened, musty straw that's been reused more times than anyone can remember. It rustles loudly with every movement, releasing a fine dust that makes your nose itch and your throat dry. There are no pillows, just a folded tunic or a bundled cloak under your head. If you're lucky, you might have a second piece of wool to drape over your shoulders. But wool itches, and it never quite covers everything at once. Your feet poke out, or your back feels exposed. No matter how many times you shift, the cold finds a way in. Every few weeks, someone might replace the straw. But until then, it's home to all kinds of tiny visitors, fleas, lice, maybe even the occasional spider. You don't want to think about it too much. Everyone lives with it. Everyone scratches. Casually. Constantly. Like it's just part of being alive. There's no bed frame. Just a spot on the floor. Slightly raised by wooden planks if you're fortunate. If not, the straw sits directly on the dirt, which is hard and uneven. When it rains, the edges of the floor get damp. Sometimes more than the edges. You wake up with stiff joints, a sore back, and a mild headache from the smoke that lingers even though the hearth has gone cold. The single window in the room is small, unglassed, and shuttered with wood that barely closes. It lets in some light and all the wind. Still, this is normal. This is home. You sit up slowly, brushing bits of straw from your hair. The day hasn't begun in earnest yet, but your body already feels tired. And you haven't even stood up. Part 3: Communal life. No privacy. There's no door to open. No hallway to walk down. No room to quietly retreat into. Your whole life, morning, noon, and night, takes place in a single shared space. You live in a one-room house. Maybe two, if your family is well off. But that second room is for storing sacks of grain. Not for solitude. The entire family sleeps together, eats together, and works together in the same space. Parents, grandparents, siblings, sometimes cousins, and occasionally, chickens. There's no such thing as alone time. No closing the door behind you to sit in silence. No bathroom to lock. Just corners of the room, one for sleeping, another for cooking, another for the firewood and tools, and all of it always occupied by someone doing something. In the early morning light, you can just make out the outline of your older brother scratching at his arms, your little sister mumbling in her sleep, and your mother already awake, kneeling by the fire, trying not to wake everyone, though of course she does. There's no way to be quiet in a room where every creak and breath echoes. If you need to change your clothes, you do it under your blanket. If someone's sick, everyone hears every cough and sniffle. And if a baby cries, which happens often, it cries right next to your head. Even if you had something private to say, who would you say it to? No one here keeps secrets. Life is too immediate, too physical, too shared. There are no journals, no whispered phone calls, no hiding out in a favorite cafe with your thoughts. There are only shared stories, shared chores, and shared smells. You're never alone, but somehow, that doesn't mean you always feel connected. This is just how life is. Simple, unvaried, together. Always together. Part 4: First task. Chamber pots and chickens. There's no bathroom. Not in the house. Not anywhere nearby. Your first task of the morning, before breakfast. Before stretching properly. Before your eyes are even fully open, is to deal with the chamber pot. It's exactly what it sounds like. A ceramic or wooden container. Kept under the bed or beside the hearth. Used by the whole family during the night. It's full now. It smells exactly as you'd imagine. And it's your turn to take it outside. You do this carefully. Half asleep. Trying not to slosh anything over the rim as you walk across the uneven dirt floor. The air is crisp. And your bare feet instantly regret leaving the warmth of your blanket. Outside, the wind bites. The ground is damp. A puddle has formed beside the compost heap. And you nearly step in it. Nearly. You empty the chamber pot as far from the house as you're allowed, most likely in a small ditch or near the edge of the field, where waste soaks into the earth or flows away with the rain. There is no plumbing, just soil and habit. With that unpleasantness done, it's time to check the chickens. You walk stiffly to the co-op, dodging patches of mud, careful not to slip. The chickens are already clucking softly, agitated by your approach. They're not the cute, cartoonish birds you might be imagining. They're scruffy, sometimes mean, and suspicious of everyone, including you. You reach in to scatter a few handfuls of yesterday's stale grain. If you're lucky, they've laid an egg or two. If you're not, one of them may try to peck your hand. You've done this every morning for as long as you can remember. So has your older brother, and your mother, and your grandfather before that. It's not remarkable. It's not exciting. It's just life. One small, cold, smelly part of it, and it's only sunrise. Part 5: Washing up without soap. The idea of feeling fresh in the morning is something you'll need to forget. There's no running water, no sink, no mirror with warm lights and gentle background music. Instead, there's a wooden bucket that someone filled the day before. If they remembered, the water is cold, not cool, cold. It's been sitting outside or near the wall all night. The surface shimmers slightly, and a thin film of dust floats on top. You splash a bit onto your face. It stings. You gasp a little. It runs down your neck and under your tunic. You wipe your hands on your wool shirt, which already smells vaguely of smoke and yesterday's labor. No towel, no soft fabric waiting nearby. Just the clothes you're already wearing. There's no soap. Not unless you or someone nearby has taken the time to render animal fat and ashes into lye, and even then, you wouldn't waste it on your morning face. That's for laundry. If you're lucky. To clean your teeth? There's a stick, a frayed twig, chewed on one end, maybe some ashes rubbed along your gums if you're feeling ambitious. Mint? Toothpaste? A toothbrush with bristles? Not in this century. You scratch at your scalp. Where it itches again, fleas or lice. Probably. Everyone has them. You try not to think about it too much. Hygiene, as you know it, hasn't been invented yet. You smell like the hearth, like the earth, like the animals, like life in the Middle Ages. And so does everyone else. There's a comfort in it. Perhaps a certain simplicity. No perfumes, no beauty standards, no pressure to exfoliate, just cold water, dirty hands, and a new day that smells exactly like the one before. Part 6: Breakfast wasn't a meal. If you're hoping for a hearty breakfast to warm you up after your chilly morning chores, you'll be disappointed. In the Middle Ages, breakfast wasn't really considered a proper meal. For many, it didn't even exist. What you get, if anything, is a chunk of yesterday's bread. It's coarse, heavy, and slightly stale, made from rye or barley, maybe some oats, and always a bit of grit, sometimes literal grit, from the millstones used to grind the flour. You chew carefully, knowing that biting too hard could crack a tooth. There's no jam, no butter, no eggs, no bacon, just bread, and perhaps a small cup of watered-down ale or weak beer. Yes, beer in the morning. Water isn't safe to drink. So beer, even a very low alcohol version, is the safer choice. It tastes slightly sour, but you drink it anyway. If your family is slightly better off, you might have a thin porridge made from leftover grains. It's warm, but bland. No sugar, no cinnamon, just oats and water. Maybe a pinch of salt if you're lucky. The food is served in wooden bowls, passed from one family member to the next. There are no forks, only spoons. And even those are shared. You eat sitting on a low stool or on the ground. Quietly, slowly, without expectation. There is no rushing out the door with a coffee in hand. There is no bakery down the street. No warm croissant. No buttery smell of something baking. Breakfast is not a comfort. It's fuel, and not very much of it. But you eat what there is, because you'll need the energy. The day ahead is long, and there won't be snacks. Part 7. Walking miles in mud. There are no paved roads, no sidewalks, no smooth gravel paths, just dirt, soft when it rains, cracked when it doesn't, and never truly clean. And rain, in medieval Europe, is not rare. When it comes, it lingers. The dirt turns to muck, thick, sticky, sucking mud that clings to your shoes, if you even have shoes. Many peasants don't. A simple pair of leather soles tied with straps is the best you can hope for. And even then, they're worn thin and leak at the seams. So you walk with care, placing each step deliberately. The road between your home and the village center is narrow and uneven. Stones jut out at odd angles. Ruts from cartwheels fill with brown water. You try to avoid the deeper puddles. But eventually, one finds you. Your foot sinks in. Cold mud oozes over your toes. You mutter under your breath, quietly. Because complaining is a luxury. Everyone else is walking too. Children, elders, merchants, travelers. No one is clean. No one is dry. You all march through the same filth. Morning after morning, the mud gets into everything. The hem of your tunic is soaked. The bottom of your cloak is crusted in a thick, gray paste. Even your hands, when you slip or steady yourself on a muddy wall, come away streaked with grime. There are no boots to hose off. No place to rinse. You just carry the mud with you. Into your chores. Into the market. Into your meals. It becomes part of the day, part of the smell, part of the sound, part of the feel of life itself. And so you walk, through the mud, through the damp, through history. Because that's the only way forward. Part 8. Getting dressed with string and wool. Getting dressed in the Middle Ages isn't a quick task. There are no zippers, no elastic, no stretchy waistbands or convenient snaps. Every piece of clothing is a layer. And every layer ties, laces, or wraps in some way that never seems quite efficient. You start with a linen shift or undershirt, if you have one. It's scratchy and slightly damp from yesterday's sweat. But it's the cleanest thing available. Then comes the wool. Always the wool. A tunic if you're a man. A gown if you're a woman. Maybe a second tunic if it's cold. Maybe a third if it's really cold. All of it heavy. All of it itchy. You pull it over your head and tug it down. It bunches awkwardly at the waist. You smooth it out as best you can. Now, the laces. Nothing is sewn shut. Everything has to be tied, at the neck, at the sleeves, at the sides. Some people have help. Most don't. You fumble with the cords. Your cold fingers struggling to form knots. If you're lucky, you don't miss a loop and have to start again. There's no mirror. Just habit. You dress by feel and memory. Your belt is a strip of leather. Looped and knotted. Used not just to hold your tunic but to hang anything you might need, your knife. A pouch. Maybe a wooden spoon. Your legs get woolen hose. If you have them, no elastic. They're held up by more ties. And if one slips, you spend the day with it sagging at your ankle. Like a slow, itchy snake. Shoes, if you wear them, must be laced too. The leather is stiff. The soles are thin. You wince as you tighten them, already knowing your feet will ache by noon. By the time you're fully dressed, you're already tired, already sweating a little, already missing the freedom of sleeping in a tunic and nothing else. But the day has barely begun, and the wool has only just started to itch. Part 9. Church before work. Before your hands touch a plow. Before you lift a bucket, or light a fire, or even sip another cup of ale, you go to church. Everyone does. Every morning, whether you're rested or not, whether you understand the words or not, the routine is the same. You walk, still stiff from sleep, down the muddy path. Past the same mossy fence posts. Past the same yawning dogs. Toward the same stone church that's been standing crooked for 200 years. Inside, it's cold, always cold. The stone floor feels like ice beneath your thin soles. The wooden benches are rough and splintered. The air smells of damp robes, candle wax, and dust. A few thin rays of light pierce through stained glass that no longer quite fits its frame. The priest begins in Latin, a language you don't speak. No one in your family does. But that doesn't matter. You stand when he stands. You kneel when he kneels. You bow your head and repeat the sounds you've memorized, like echoes of a prayer you once heard in a dream. You pray for rain, or for less rain. You pray for food, or for health, or for your uncle's bad leg. You pray mostly because not praying would be noticed. And being noticed is not good. There is no singing today. Just slow, measured chants. No music, no organ, just voices and silence. You try to stay awake. Your stomach growls. Your knees ache. But still you remain, shifting your weight slowly from foot to foot as time drips forward like cold wax. Eventually, the service ends. You bless yourself with holy water and step outside. The sun has risen a little higher. But not much. The mud is still thick. The workday now truly begins. But before your body can labor, your soul must kneel. That is the order of things. Part 10. A full day in the fields. There is no time clock to punch. No lunch break planned. No weekend waiting. Your job today, like every day, is to work the land, and the land does not care how you feel. It only responds to what you do. Slowly, relentlessly. You carry your tools on your back, a wooden hoe. Maybe an iron-tipped spade if you're lucky. They're worn smooth from years of use. Their handles shaped by generations of tired hands. The fields stretch out before you, lumpy and brown, tangled with old roots and new weeds. There's no tractor, no machine, just muscle and time. You begin with tilling. The soil is heavy with last night's rain, and every step sinks. You drive the hoe down again and again, breaking apart clumps of dirt, turning the earth until your arms ache. The sun rises higher, but you don't notice. There are no clocks here. Time is marked by sweat, not minutes. You move on to sowing, if it's planting season. Bent at the waist, hour after hour, you drop seeds into furrows, one handful at a time. Or you weed, pulling stubborn shoots by hand. Or you carry water from the stream in wooden pails that leak a little more each week. Or you mend a fence. Or dig a ditch. The work doesn't vary much. It's not meant to. It's a rhythm. Push, pull, dig, lift, bend, straighten, over and over. Your fingers go numb, your shoulders tighten. You stop only when you can't move or when someone calls you in. And all the while, the sun beats down or the rain seeps through. There's no shelter in the field. No shade but what your hat provides. No rest except the few minutes you might steal to stretch your back and breathe. The fields are life. They give food, trade, and meaning, but they also take your energy, your time, and sometimes, your years. And by mid-morning, your hands already look older than they did at sunrise. Part 11. The itch you can't scratch. It begins as a tingle. Just a small sensation along the back of your neck. Maybe the shoulder. Maybe your lower leg. You try to ignore it, but it grows. And then, another one, and another. It's not your imagination. It's lice, or fleas, or both. Everyone has them. Cleanliness, as you know it, doesn't exist. You wash when you can, but the water is cold. The soap is harsh or non-existent. And the clothes you put back on are the same ones you wore yesterday. And the day before. And the day before that. Washed once a week. Maybe. Less in winter. The itch is constant. Behind your ears. Beneath your collar. Along your scalp. Sometimes it feels like something is crawling, and sometimes something is. You scratch carefully, discreetly, while talking, while working, while praying. Everyone does. It's simply part of the rhythm of life. You might try to pick them out, combing through your hair with a wooden comb, or rubbing herbs on your skin in hopes of discouraging the more determined pests. But it never lasts. They always come back. Bites swell and redden. Some become sores. You try not to think about infection. You try not to scratch too hard. You try not to notice when your friend or your sister reaches under her shirt to claw at her ribs during dinner. Even your straw bedding holds them. Especially your straw bedding. The warmth. The darkness. It's a paradise for tiny, unwelcome guests. There is no relief. No ointment. No shampoo. Just scratching. And more scratching. And the silent resignation that this is how your skin will feel for as long as you live. You can't sleep it away. You can't wash it away. You can only try not to think about it too much. Part 12. Water that made you sick. You're thirsty. The sun has risen. The chores have begun. And your mouth is dry from the dust and the salt of sweat. So you go to fetch water. There's no faucet. No glass bottle. No filter humming quietly under a sink. Just the same stream, pond, or shallow well that's always been there, used by everyone. For everything. The water looks clear, mostly. Maybe a few leaves float on the surface. Maybe a tadpole. You don't think about it too much. You can't afford to. You draw it with a wooden bucket. The handle creaks. The water sloshes. You carry it back carefully, trying not to spill, though your arms shake from the weight. When you finally take a sip, it's warm from the sun, a bit earthy, and it tastes like iron. Or moss. Or something you can't quite name. Sometimes it makes you sick. Not always. But enough to be careful. Enough that you learn which parts of the stream are safest. Which bucket should be rinsed twice. And which reeds nearby smell strange for a reason. Still, there are no guarantees. The same stream that quenches your thirst also carries away the waste from upstream farms. It's where animals drink, where people wash, where others dump refuse, quietly, when no one is looking. Germ theory hasn't been discovered yet. No one boils water unless they absolutely have to. Stomach pain is common, diarrhea is constant, and fever comes more often than you'd like. Some people call it bad air. Others say it's punishment. You know, it just feels like knives twisting in your belly and long nights spent curled beside the fire, waiting for it to pass. But even then, when your strength returns, you go back, because that same water is the only water. You drink carefully, slowly, and hope this time you'll be lucky. Part 13. Illness was a daily companion. You wake with a cough. Not a sharp one, just a dry, rasping tickle that never quite goes away. Your nose is stuffy. Your joints ache. But you get up anyway. Because everyone feels like this. Most of the time. In the Middle Ages, being sick isn't a rare event. It's a constant, low hum in the background of everyday life. A reminder. A companion. You don't think of illness as something separate from life. It's simply part of it. A bad stomach one week. A sore throat the next. Rashes come and go. Boils rise and burst. Sometimes a neighbor is gone for a few days. And when they return, they look thinner, quieter, grayer. There are no hospitals, no antibiotics, no thermometers to tell you if it's something serious. There are only signs: shivering, sweating, strange bruises, and prayers. If it's a simple cold, you wrap yourself tighter and keep working. If it's something more, you lie down by the fire and wait. Herbs might help. Your grandmother brews a tea with dried nettle and bits of mint. It's bitter. You drink it anyway. A village healer might rub goose fat on your chest, or tie garlic around your neck, or bleed you with a dull blade to let the bad humors out. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. People disappear quietly. A child one morning, an elder one night. No announcements, just silence. But you carry on, because you have to. The chores don't wait for your fever to break. The animals still need feeding. The bread still needs kneading. And no one else has time to rest either. So you cough, and you ache, and you work. Illness lives with you, at your table, in your bed, not as a stranger, but as something familiar. Part 14. Pain was part of life. Pain is not a crisis. It's not a sign to stop or reason to rest. It's just there, like the weather, like the mud, like the creaking of old wood. You wake up sore. Your back aches from sleeping on straw. Your hands throb from gripping tools. Maybe you twisted your ankle in the field, or burned your fingers on the iron pot last night. There's no ointment, no ice, just a dull, lingering sting, and the expectation that you'll keep going. If you chip a tooth on coarse bread, you live with it. If it gets worse, swells, festers, someone might pull it for you. Not gently, not cleanly, just with a firm hand and a hot iron tool, while others hold you down. If you break a bone, it gets wrapped in cloth and tied to a stick. There's no X-ray, no surgeon, only splints and hope. You don't stop working, you just limp. You find a new way to carry the pail, a new grip for the rake. You adapt. Women give birth at home, without medicine, surrounded by other women, boiling water, and whispered prayers. Some survive, some don't. It's understood. Children get sick, some get better, some don't. That's understood too. No one talks about pain like it's strange. No one asks if you're okay. You don't ask them either. Not because you don't care, but because it's everywhere. It's expected. It's absorbed into the rhythm of the day. Like smoke in your clothes or dirt under your nails. You wince. You carry on. Because there is no other choice. Pain is not an interruption. It's part of the script. Part 15 lunch? If you're lucky. You've been working for hours, digging, lifting, gathering, walking. The sun is high now. Though you didn't notice it climb. Time is a blur of labor. But your stomach remembers. You're hungry. There's no packed lunch. No midday break with sandwiches and fruit and a cold drink. There's only what was left from last night's meal, or whatever can be thrown together with what's still in the house. Lunch, if it happens at all, is quick and modest. A bowl of thin vegetable broth. Maybe more water than vegetable. A small crust of bread. Tough at the edges. If someone traded well at market, there might be a sliver of cheese. If not, it's broth and bread again. You eat with your hands or with a wooden spoon. You sit on the ground. The grass. A flat stone. There's no set table. No quiet conversation. Just the sounds of chewing, wind, and the occasional distant animal. Sometimes, you don't eat at midday at all. Sometimes the work is too urgent. Or the fire went out. Or the food simply ran out. In those moments, you drink a little ale or chew on a dried root and carry on. No one complains. Not out loud. This is normal. Feasting is for holidays. For saints' days and weddings and the rare good harvest. Today is not one of those days. Today is ordinary. And in the Middle Ages, ordinary means hunger never really leaves you. It just waits, more quietly after each meal. Part 16 Endless tasks. No breaks. The meal, if you can call it that, is over. A few bites of bread. A sip of ale. And a quiet moment sitting on a rock. But you don't linger. There's no time to rest. The day is waiting, and so are the chores. There is always something to do. If you're not in the field, you're hauling water from the stream. 2 buckets, one on each side of a wooden yoke across your shoulders. It creaks as you walk. The water sloshes. Your back strains. If the buckets are full, someone else needs help repairing a fence. Binding split wood with rope and hammering uneven nails that bend more often than they sink. When that's done, the garden needs weeding, the goats need feeding, the thatch needs patching, the firewood needs chopping, the tools need sharpening, the chickens need chasing. Clothes must be washed in cold water and beaten with paddles on rocks by the riverbank. Laundry takes all afternoon, and your hands go numb from the chill. Then someone reminds you the beans must be shelled, or the grain ground, or the root cellar swept of mice. It doesn't stop. It doesn't slow. No one asks if you're tired. Even children have their tasks. Gathering kindling. Keeping an eye on the fire. Watching the geese. There's no nap time. No screen time. No toys unless they're made from sticks and imagination. You might pause long enough to stretch your shoulders or scratch at the flea bite on your ankle. But that's the only pause you'll get. Because the tasks don't end. They only shift. From one hour to the next. From one need to another. In the Middle Ages, being still is not rest. It's just the brief space between one job and the next. In the modern world, you might check the weather for convenience. Should I take a jacket? Will it rain on my way to work? In the Middle Ages, weather is not a curiosity. It is everything. A single morning of rain can flood your fields. A late frost can kill your crops. A dry summer can ruin your entire year. And there's nothing you can do about it. No irrigation system, no forecast, no greenhouse to protect your vegetables. Just the open sky, and your hopes. The wind picks up in the late afternoon. You glance toward the horizon and see gray clouds gathering. The air grows damp and cold. You feel it in your bones. There's no time to wait it out. If the grain isn't covered, it will rot. If the firewood isn't brought in, it will soak. If the roof leaks, and it always leaks, someone will be sleeping in a puddle tonight. You run, but not fast. Your shoes are wet and heavy. You carry as much as you can. You shout for your brother to help, but he's already chasing the goats. The rain comes anyway. It seeps through your cloak. It drips from your sleeves. It turns the road into a stream and the field into a swamp. Your tools rust. Your hands freeze. There's no drying off. No radiator. No clothes dryer humming in the corner. You hang your tunic near the hearth and hope it will be less damp by morning. You whisper a prayer to the clouds to be kinder tomorrow. But the clouds do not listen. They never have. Part 18. You stink. Everyone stinks. The smell hits you before you even notice it. Not because it's new, but because it's always there. So constant, so woven into your day, that you stop noticing until someone new walks past, or until you do. Your clothes haven't been washed in days. Your socks, if you're lucky enough to own any, haven't been washed in weeks. Bathing is rare. Water is cold. Soap is scarce and precious. Most people simply wipe off with a damp cloth now and then and hope for the best. Your underarms smell of old sweat and wood smoke. Your feet smell of mud and leather. Your hair smells of sheep's wool and grease. It's not personal. It's not shameful. It's just life. The house smells, too, of ashes, onions, damp straw, animals, and smoke. Always smoke. The hearth never quite goes out. And the soot settles into everything, your tunic, your blankets, your food. The people around you? They smell the same. Some slightly better. Some slightly worse. But everyone is steeped in the same mixture. Earth, effort, and age. Perfume? For nobles. For weddings. For saints' relics. Not for your life. Not for your mourning. Certainly not for your armpits. You might rub some dried lavender on your collar if you have it. Maybe a mint leaf behind the ear. But that's more for comfort than effect. You stink. And so does everyone else. So no one mentions it. Because in the Middle Ages, smelling like work meant you were still alive. Part 19. Law and order was creative. There is no police station. No lawyer waiting by the phone. No court date 6 weeks from now. In the Middle Ages, justice is immediate and often unpredictable. If someone steals your chicken, and you catch them, you don't file a report. You grab them by the collar and drag them to the village square. The reeve might be there, the local official, chosen by landowners or appointed by a lord, and he decides what happens next. Did the thief confess? Good. Less trouble. Still, they might be tied to a post for public shaming, or whipped with a switch cut fresh from the hedgerow. Did they deny it? Then comes the ordeal. Maybe they'll be dunked in a river. If they float, they're guilty. Maybe their hand will be burned with a hot iron. If it heals clean, they're innocent, according to someone. Maybe they're just locked in a small wooden cage and left to sit while townspeople jeer. The punishments are not subtle. Hands cut off, ears nailed to doors, tongues removed for blasphemy, and sometimes a rope. There is no appeal. There is no fine to pay. There are no lawyers standing beside you. arguing your case. Even smaller matters are handled with spectacle. Gossiping too much? The scold's bridle, a metal cage for your head and mouth. Selling bad bread? You might be dragged through the village with your spoiled goods tied around your neck. Everyone watches, because watching someone else punished is part of the lesson. Law exists, but mercy? That depends on who's watching and how important you are. Part 20 Medicine was guesswork. You're not feeling well. Maybe it's a fever. Maybe your stomach aches. Maybe there's a lump on your neck that wasn't there yesterday. You tell someone. They nod slowly and say, "It's the humors." 4 fluids. They believe blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile govern the body. If one of them is out of balance, you become ill. How to fix it? That depends. You might be bled, a knife, a leech, or a cup applied with fire. The idea is simple. Remove some blood, and the body might feel better. It rarely works. Often, you just feel dizzy afterward. If your belly hurts, you're given herbs, bitter ones, or maybe a warm poultice made of mashed onion, garlic, and old animal fat. It's spread across your skin and held there with cloth. The smell lingers. If your head hurts, they might drill a small hole to let out the pressure. It's called trepanation. Yes, an actual hole in your skull. Not common, but not as rare as you'd like. Sometimes, they say you're cursed, that your illness is a punishment from above. You're told to pray harder, to fast, to carry a relic. Someone might wave incense near your bed. A wandering physician might come through town once a season. He carries scrolls and pouches, and a very large hat. He speaks Latin and mumbles long words. His cure? Powdered frog, maybe, ground bone, mercury. There are no antibiotics, no antiseptic, no knowledge of germs. If you recover, it's considered a blessing. If you die, it was meant to be. No one questions the logic, because there isn't any. Only tradition, hope, and a very long list of things that probably won't work. Part 21 The marketplace was chaos. You finally make it to market day. It's supposed to be a break from the fields. A chance to buy, sell, maybe even hear a bit of news. But it isn't peaceful. It's chaos. The village square is packed. People shout over each other, arguing over turnip prices, linen threads, and the quality of goat cheese. Chickens flap loose from baskets. Dogs bark at carts. A cow stands exactly in the middle of everything and refuses to move. You squeeze between stalls made of sagging cloth and splintered wood. Smells collide. Sweet honey cakes next to fish that's been out too long in the sun. Herbs, sweat, manure, burning tallow. You try not to breathe too deeply. There's no such thing as personal space. A stranger elbows past you. A child grabs your sleeve and asks for a coin. Someone spills something near your feet, and you're not sure what it was, but your boot is now sticky. Coins are clinking everywhere, but many people barter instead. You might trade onions for wool, or eggs for a clay bowl. There are no price tags. Everything is negotiated, loudly, badly. A pickpocket slips through the crowd. Quiet as a shadow. You clutch your pouch tighter. A man in a faded robe stands on a crate, reading royal proclamations no one listens to. A juggler drops his apples. A tooth puller offers his services to anyone with pain and bravery. It's exciting, yes, but also exhausting. Because this isn't a relaxing afternoon stroll. It's survival. It's noise. It's business, medieval style. And when you finally leave, a little dizzy, a little poorer, and definitely dirtier, you realize the fields weren't so bad after all. Part 22. No money. Only trade. You reach into your pouch, and it's nearly empty. But that's not surprising, because in the Middle Ages, money is rare. Most people don't use coins in their daily lives. You might have a few, heavy, uneven pieces of silver or copper, but they're saved for taxes or special moments. For everything else, there's barter. You need a new pair of boots? You'd better have something to offer: eggs, onions, spun wool, or maybe a service: sharpening tools, fixing a fence, watching someone's goats for a week. Everything has value, but no value is fixed. A sack of flour might buy you a blanket 1 month, and only a loaf of bread the next. A piglet might trade for 3 chickens, or 4, depending on how hungry the butcher looks. Trade is negotiation. It's storytelling. You talk up your potatoes. You downplay the bruise on that cabbage. You mention how good your ale turned out this season, and how few people have clean water like yours. Sometimes deals fall through. Sometimes people nod and shake hands, then never follow through. Sometimes you walk half a day just to trade a sack of oats for a tin cup. There are no receipts, no banks, no savings. If you want something, you must convince someone you're worth it. It's not just about having enough. It's about being clever, patient, persistent. Because here, wealth isn't counted in coins. It's carried on your back, grown in your field, or held carefully in your calloused hands. Part 23. The smithy is deafening. You follow the sound before you see it. The steady, rhythmic clang of iron on iron, echoing down the lane like a heartbeat made of metal. That's the smithy. The blacksmith is one of the most important people in the village. Without him, there are no plows, no hinges, no horseshoes, no nails. But visiting his shop is not a calm experience. As you step inside, the heat hits you first. It's not the cozy warmth of a hearth. It's a dry, heavy heat that sticks to your skin and makes you blink. The forge blazes orange. Sparks leap and fall like fireflies made of knives. The air smells of burning charcoal, sweat, and hot iron. It's thick, hard to breathe, and loud. So loud, each strike of the hammer sends a ringing shock through the ground. The smith barely glances up. His face is streaked with soot. His sleeves rolled, muscles moving in patterns carved by repetition. A boy works the bellows, pushing air into the fire. The flames roar. The blacksmith pulls out a glowing horseshoe, beats it into shape, plunges it into a barrel of water. Steam rises. You flinch at the hiss, even though you knew it was coming. You try to speak. He can't hear you. No one hears anything in here. You gesture instead. Point to your broken blade or bent shovel. He nods. You wait. There are no appointments, no exact prices, just your place in line and your patience. And when you finally leave, with your tool fixed, your ears ringing, your tunic smelling of fire, you understand. This is the cost of progress. One hammer strike at a time. Part 24. Home before sundown. The sun begins to dip, slowly, but noticeably, painting the village in long, golden shadows. That's your cue. Because in the Middle Ages, when the light goes, so must you. There are no street lamps, No porch lights. No flashlights tucked into your bag. When night falls, it falls completely. And moving around after dark is something only fools or thieves attempt. So you head home. The road that felt rough underfoot this morning now feels unfamiliar. The tree branches seem to reach lower. The fences lean more than you remember. A breeze picks up, carrying the smells of wet earth, smoke, and somewhere far off, manure. You walk faster. The path narrows. You avoid the ditch where you once lost a shoe last winter. You wave politely at someone you think you know. But it's hard to tell in the half-light. By the time you reach your door, the last of the sun has slipped behind the hills. Inside, it's already dim. The fire's been lit, but it's weak. Just a few red coals nestled under last night's ashes. A single tallow candle flickers in the center of the room. It smells faintly of sheep. It sputters when someone walks past. You sit, exhale, let your eyes adjust to the gloom. No reading, no evening stroll, no quick trip back to the smithy. The day is done because the light is done. And in a world ruled by the sun, you learn, quickly, to be home before it disappears. Part 25 evening meal is also repetitive. The room is dim now. Only the soft glow of the hearth and a wavering candle lighting the space. It's time for the evening meal. But don't expect anything new. Dinner, like breakfast, like yesterday, and the day before that, is exactly what you think it is. Pottage, a thin stew, made from whatever you have on hand. A few root vegetables, maybe turnips or onions. A handful of beans. If you're lucky, there's barley or a bit of cabbage. The pot has been simmering for hours. Not because it improves the flavor, but because it keeps it from spoiling. Sometimes it tastes better the second day. Sometimes it doesn't. There might be a scrap of bacon or some salted fish if the week's gone well. But usually not. Meat is rare. Reserved for special occasions, holy days, or unexpected guests of status. You choose slowly, filling your belly, not your curiosity. The bread is coarse and hard around the edges. It crumbles if you press too hard. And it's best dipped into the pottage to soften. Everyone eats from their own wooden bowl, if they have one. Spoons are shared. Fingers are common. There's no dessert, no fresh fruit in winter. No wine unless you've traded something valuable. A bit of ale, perhaps, and then, just silence. The family sits close, shoulders touching. There's a rhythm to the scraping of spoons, to the few murmured conversations, to the way someone passes the bowl of salt without needing to be asked. There's no music, no clinking glasses, no second course, just warmth, and the same flavors you've tasted 100 times before, and will taste again tomorrow. Because here, repetition isn't boring, it's survival. Part 26 entertainment was just surviving. The meal is done, the bowls are scraped clean. The fire is low, flickering gently in the hearth. And now comes the quiet. In the modern world, this might be when the TV goes on, or the phone lights up. Maybe a book, a podcast, a quick scroll through pictures of things you'll never buy. But in the Middle Ages, there is none of that. There's only the end of the day. Sometimes, someone tells a story, an old one, told many times, about a saint, or a local ghost, or a man who tried to milk a bull. People chuckle softly. You've heard it before, but that's not the point. It's the telling, not the surprise. Occasionally, there's a song, a quiet one, hummed or sung under breath. No instruments. Unless someone nearby owns a flute or a single drum. Mostly, it's voices, worn and gentle. Children might play for a few moments, pebbles, sticks, or a game scratched into the dirt floor. But they're tired. You're tired. There's no light to read by. Even if you knew how. Books are for priests, for lords, for monasteries behind high stone walls. Your entertainment is the flicker of fire, the rhythm of familiar voices, the sound of the wind outside, and the warmth of a body beside yours. You sit, you listen, you rest, because in this world, staying alive was the great drama. And having food, shelter, and a bit of laughter at the end of the day? That was enough. Part 27. One room for everyone. The fire has faded to embers. The candle is out. The stories are done. And now, it's time to sleep. But not alone. There are no bedrooms. No doors to close. No separate beds lined up neatly with fresh sheets. In a medieval home, one room is all there is, and everyone sleeps in it. Your parents, your siblings, sometimes cousins, sometimes grandparents, sometimes even the neighbor's child. If their roof has collapsed again. If it's winter, the animals might be inside too, chickens in the corner. A goat near the door for warmth. You shift slightly in the straw, careful not to roll too close to the edge where it's damp. You sleep on the same floor you walked across all day. A thin layer of straw beneath a wool blanket. Maybe two if you're fortunate. You wrap your cloak around your shoulders to block the draft that sneaks in through the cracks in the wall. There's snoring. There's coughing. There's the occasional muttered dream or accidental elbow to the ribs. Someone gets up in the night to use the chamber pot. You hear the slosh. You smell it. No one says a word. Privacy doesn't exist. Modesty is practical, not personal. Everyone turns the other way. Everyone learns to ignore what they must. This closeness is simply life. Crowded, shared, worn into routine. There is no quiet space for reflection. No pillow for secrets. Only shared breath, shared warmth, shared sleep. In the dark, you stare at the beams of the ceiling. And you breathe in the air that everyone else is breathing too. And somehow, you sleep. Because you're tired. Because everyone else is. And because in the Middle Ages, peace doesn't come in solitude. It comes when everyone finally stops moving. Part 28. Saying goodnight without lights or privacy. The candle has burned low. A stub of tallow, flickering faintly before it gutters out. Someone leans over and pinches the flame. Darkness settles in, not the soft, modern kind of darkness, warmed by screens and standby lights. This is full darkness, heavy, still, alive with small sounds. You lie on your straw bedding, surrounded by others, your family, your neighbors, the quiet shifting of someone turning over beside you, the warmth of a shared blanket, the cold creeping up from the floor beneath. There's no bedtime routine, no brushing your teeth, no changing into something more comfortable. You're already in your sleeping clothes, because they're your only clothes. No one says, "Good night," out loud. Not really. It's more of a grunt, a sigh, a muttered prayer, a few words to the Virgin, a whisper to the saints. Maybe a joke, if anyone has the energy left to tell it. A moment of quiet laughter in the dark. And then, stillness. Privacy doesn't exist. If someone snores, you endure it. If someone coughs, you offer a half-asleep blessing. If someone cries softly, you don't ask why. You're part of a breathing, snoring, dreaming bundle of people, wrapped in wool and straw and exhaustion. And outside? Only the sound of wind brushing against the shutters. Only the creak of old wood. Only the long, slow night ahead. There are no lights to leave on. No locks to click shut. Only faith, habit, and the hope that dawn will come quietly. You close your eyes, and sleep comes, not comfortably, but completely. Because here, in this single crowded room, sleep is survival. Part 29. Listening to the night, coyotes, creaks, and cold winds. Sleep does come, but it doesn't stay quietly. In the Middle Ages, the night is not silent. It speaks in its own language. A slow rhythm of sounds that roll in like waves. Just soft enough to let you wonder what they are, but loud enough to keep your mind half awake. You hear the wind first. It slips through the cracks in the walls, curling around your ankles beneath the blanket. It whistles between loose roof shingles and flaps the edge of the thatch like a sigh. Then the creaks begin. The wood above you groans. Not suddenly, not sharply, but with long, aching stretches, as if the house itself is dreaming uneasily. A chicken shuffles in the corner, clucking once and then falling still. You hear your sister shift beside you. Someone coughs. A deep snore begins, pauses, then starts again with commitment. And far off, from beyond the village, a howl. Not a dog, not close. Something wilder. A coyote, maybe, or wolves. If the season's right, they call out into the dark. Long and low. No one stirs. No one sits up. Because this is the music of the world as it was. Untamed, unlit, unfiltered. You lie still, listening, letting the sounds wrap around you. Not afraid, exactly. Just aware of how thin the walls are. How big the night is. How much of the world lies just outside the reach of your heart's warmth. And yet, you sleep. Because you must. Because the day will come soon. Because the night has always sounded like this. And it always will. Part 30. Why you'd probably give up by day 2. You made it through the day. You woke up on straw. You hauled water. You fed animals. Walked through mud. Squinted through smoke. Worked with aching hands. You ate root soup. You shared a bed with 3 people and a chicken. You coughed. You scratched. You endured. And somehow, you made it to morning. But could you do it again? And again? And again? For a lifetime? That's the question. Because here, every day is the same. Every task repeats. Every comfort is small and earned. Pain is expected. Privacy is a dream. Food is simple. Rest is earned. Entertainment is survival. And even the smallest conveniences, clean water, warm beds, light at the flick of a switch, simply don't exist. Your body hurts. Your clothes itch. You haven't truly been alone in 36 hours. And your pillow is still a bundled cloak. You look outside. The sun is rising. The fire is dying. Someone is already stirring. It's time to begin again. But for you, visitor from another century, softened by mattresses and microwaves, this might be where you say, no, thank you, and no one would blame you. Because life in the Middle Ages wasn't cinematic. It wasn't all castles and candles and courtly songs. It was cold, hard, repetitive, and it required a kind of strength that doesn't show up in fairy tales. So, if you've lasted this long in the story, congratulations. Now, Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And let yourself drift gently back to your own time. Where pillows are soft, water is clean, and the worst thing you'll do tomorrow is answer a few emails. Good night, and may you never, ever wake up in the 14th century.